Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into a topic that's becoming super relevant, especially with all the recent concerns about wildfires and building safety and sustainability.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah, we're talking ADUs,
Mm-hmm.
but not just any ADUs. We're looking at how to make them safer and more sustainable, particularly in those areas that are prone to those wildfires.
Right. Areas with higher fire risk, like we see a lot of in California.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, huge.
California is a prime example.
Mm-hmm.
So the source we're diving into today comes from M.H.S. Building Systems and their fabricator in Los Angeles, Kid House.
Okay.
And they've got this system, it's called M.H.S., and it's all about building ADUs that can actually withstand fire damage.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Right. I mean, imagine having that peace of mind, knowing that your ADU is built to resist those intense flames.
It's really about taking that extra step towards resilience, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But before we get too deep into those details, let's do a quick recap of ADUs for anyone who might be, new to the concept.
Sounds good.
So ADU stands for?
Accessory Dwelling Unit.
Exactly. It's basically like a mini house or like a separate apartment that you have on your property.
Think guest suite, a granny flat.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
A dedicated office space
Yeah.
away from the main house. Lots of possibilities there.
So many options. And our source points out that there are a ton of benefits.
For sure.
Like you get more space for families, a place for, guests or elderly parents to live comfortably, maybe a quiet space if you're working from home.
Mm-hmm.
And they even say that it can increase your property value and might even be, more affordable than doing like a huge addition to your existing home.
Absolutely. And, they're becoming super popular these days, especially in areas where housing is, really expensive and space is limited.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like a potential win-win for homeowners. But of course, like you said, safety has got to be top priority.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which brings us to, maybe I should say the fire-breathing elephant in the room.
Okay.
Because traditional wood framing, it doesn't cut it when it comes to fire safety.
No, not at all.
Like if a wildfire sweeps through those wooden ADUs, they practically become kindling.
It's a huge concern. And it's not just about the ADU itself, right?
Right.
You have to think about the risk to your main house, the whole neighborhood.
Oh, for sure.
If an ADU catches fire.
It can be really scary to think about because those attic fires, they spread so quickly.
Yeah.
And once that structure weakens, it often leads to like irreparable damage.
Right.
So that's where MHS framing comes in. They have a completely different approach.
Okay. I'm interested.
Yeah. So they get this non-combustible aluminum.
Interesting.
For the framing instead of wood.
So it won't catch fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not only does it not ignite, but it can actually hold its strength even under that extreme heat and fire exposure.
Wow.
I know, right? So even in a worst case scenario, there's a much higher chance that you could repair the ADU instead of having to, start from scratch.
That's huge, especially for homeowners in those, fire-prone areas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Must be such a relief.
It's all about resilience for the homeowner and the entire community.
Now, looking at this source material, I got really curious about the specifics of MHS.
Yeah.
It's not just about, swapping wood for aluminum, right? They have this whole system designed to prevent fire from spreading.
It's a whole system, yeah. A holistic approach, which is what makes it so effective.
Mm-hmm.
So along with that, high-strength aluminum alloy for the framing, they use fire-resistant materials like corrugated metal for the roofs and those exterior walls.
Oh, right. And then there are those flame-proof structural insulated panels.
Yeah, the FSX.
The FSX, yeah. Those sound so cool.
They are pretty neat. They've got this core material that provides really great insulation, but it's completely non-combustible.
Wow.
It's like having a built-in fireproof blanket inside your walls.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What kind of material is at the core of those panels? Mm-hmm. I'm picturing something super high-tech.
Yeah, the source doesn't really go into the specifics of the material.
Oh.
But they emphasize that it meets the, highest fire resistance standards out there.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's obvious they've put a lot of thought into every single detail.
Mm-hmm.
Even the doors and windows are chosen with fire resistance in mind.
Exactly. It's not just about addressing one or two potential weak points.
Right.
It's about looking at the entire structure and minimizing that risk at every level. Yeah. That's what really sets MHS apart.
I see that.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about how MHS is tackling the issue of fire safety, but this source also talks about the sustainability aspects.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting.
For sure. That's a big part of the conversation too, right? It's not just about protecting homes from fire, but also thinking about the environmental impact of all the materials that we're using.
Right, exactly. And like, for example, they mentioned how aluminum is recyclable.
Yeah.
So you're not only getting a durable ADU, but you're also helping reduce the demand for new materials, especially wood, which after these devastating wildfires, minimizing deforestation just seems even more important.
Absolutely. When you take a step back and look at the big picture, the construction industry has a pretty big environmental footprint.
Yeah.
So using recycled materials like aluminum, moving away from relying on wood, that plays a big role in creating a more sustainable future.
Right. And it really highlights how innovative design can have this ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just impacting the homeowner, but also the environment as a whole.
For sure. And it's not just about the materials themselves either.
Right.
They also mention energy efficiency in the design. Oh, yeah.
These MHS ADUs, they can really help minimize the energy used for heating and cooling.
Which is fantastic for both the planet and our wallets.
Exactly.
So it seems like we're kind of hitting this trifecta here.
Yeah.
Increased safety, lighter environmental footprint, and then potentially even some long-term cost savings.
Right. It's not just about one isolated factor. It's about finding solutions that address, multiple concerns at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Now, even with all these benefits, I can't help but wonder about the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. Building with these cutting-edge fire-resistant materials probably has a higher upfront price tag.
That's fair. It's definitely something to consider,
Mm-hmm.
but I think instead of focusing on just the initial costs, it's worth thinking about what it might cost to not build with fire-resistant materials.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's about more than just that initial investment, right?
Exactly. Have you thought about what it would cost to rebuild your ADU or even your main home from scratch after a fire?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about the financial burden, which
Can be enormous, but also the time, the emotional stress,
Right.
and the environmental impact of having to demolish and then rebuild.
That is a really good point. I hadn't even thought about those long-term costs. And I bet insurance premiums are affected by the type of construction too.
Oh, absolutely. Insurance companies are starting to recognize the lower risk that comes with fire-resistant construction.
Makes sense.
So yeah, while those initial building costs for an MHS ADU might be higher, you could actually save money on your insurance premiums, and over time, that can really offset some of the difference.
That makes a lot of sense. So I guess it's not just a simple yes or no answer when it comes to the cost.
Right.
There are a lot of different factors that you have to weigh.
Definitely. It's about having that long-term vision and recognizing that building for resilience, it often involves a different way of thinking about costs and benefits. Right. So for our listeners who might be thinking about, maybe adding an ADU to their property, what's the key takeaway here?
I think the biggest message is that, fire safety really needs to be a central part of the conversation from the very beginning.
For sure. Yeah. Don't just assume that all EDUs are created equal.
Exactly.
Especially if you're in a fire-prone area, or even if you just want that extra peace of mind. It's crucial to look into these fire-resistant options like MHS.
And this goes beyond individual homeowners too,
How so?
The source actually calls for some policy changes to encourage wider adoption of these safer building practices.
Okay.
Because, building codes often lag behind innovation.
Yeah, that's true.
So advocating for updates that prioritize fire-resistant materials, that's really important.
It makes you wonder if these materials offer so many benefits, why aren't they already like the industry standard?
That's a great question. But, I'm optimistic that as more people learn about the benefits of building with materials like MHS,
and as those long-term cost savings become more apparent, I think we'll see a real shift in the industry.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
It'd be incredible to see entire communities designed with this level of resilience in mind.
It's an exciting possibility, isn't it? Imagine a future where sustainable fire-resistant construction just becomes the norm.
Right.
It's not just about protecting individual homes. It's about safeguarding entire communities.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
It seems like we're really on the edge of a paradigm shift in how we approach building and design.
Yeah.
Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the growing popularity of ADUs and the fire risks with traditional construction to this potential of MHS as a safer and more sustainable solution.
Yeah, we've explored so many facets of MHS, the
Mhm.
fire resistance, the durability, the sustainability, and even those those potential long-term cost savings.
Right. It's really clear that they've taken this comprehensive approach to address all the challenges that come with, building today.
Yeah, for sure. But I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question here.
Okay.
Imagine you could rebuild your home from scratch, knowing everything we know now about fire risk and the importance of sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
What choices would you make? Would you stick with that traditional wood framing, or would you look into a more resilient and eco-conscious option like M.H.S?
That's a really powerful question to consider.
Yeah.
It really makes us think about our priorities and what kind of future we want to build, not just for ourselves, but for future generations.
Exactly. It's not just about building a structure. It's about creating this legacy of responsible and resilient design.
And as we see, the impacts of climate change and the increasing threat of these wildfires, these considerations are becoming even more crucial, right? We're not just making choices for today, we're shaping the world of tomorrow.
That's such a good point. So much of this really comes down to awareness and education.
Absolutely.
The more we learn about these innovative solutions like M.H.S, the more empowered we are to make those informed decisions about the spaces we live in.
For sure. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to building a safer, more sustainable future.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening who wants to learn more about M.H.S and those flame-proof ADUs, I definitely recommend checking out their website or reaching out to their fabricator in LA, Kith House.
Yeah, they're doing some really, really impressive work. And it's so inspiring to see these companies, really pushing those boundaries of what's possible in construction.
It gives you hope for the future of building.
It really does.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We hope this episode has given you a new perspective on ADUs and maybe sparked some important conversations about fire safety, sustainability, and really the future of construction.
Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and keep asking those thought-provoking questions.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, everyone.